What was the most shocking thing you heard the quiet kid say? Nothing. Let me explain. I took a class with Sunechi Cho, the Virginia Tech shooter, one semester before the shooting. The class was called Contemporary Horror. It was a one-time elective offered by my favorite professor. We read horror novels and watched horror films and discussed the craft of creating scary stories, but also how they reflected or represented their era's fears. It was a great class. There were only about 15 students, and it was discussion heavy. Cho was one of them. I honestly never noticed him, even in that small class, until halfway into the semester. He wasn't quiet, he was silent. So on the day we all finally noticed him, our professor asked him something directly, and Cho just stared at him. I can't remember the question, but the nature of it meant silence was potentially an acceptable and funny response. So we all laughed, except Cho. He just kept staring at our professor. Our laughter awkwardly died, and after a few moments of uncomfortable silence, our professor just said, "Okay," and moved on. It was so strange. But I forgot about that weird moment until after his rampage. That professor later told me that Cho's papers had been disturbing, but the nature of our course meant the envelope was being pushed a bit, and it had never been bad enough to suggest he'd do what he did. That professor was a good man, and he admitted he struggled with not blaming himself on some level for one, not identifying how severe Cho's mental health problems were, and two, for the graphic and terrible nature of some of what we watched in that class, which may have inspired Cho. He knew that was bullshit, but a part of him couldn't help but feel some blame. It was terribly sad. Edit added the second paragraph. I was best friends with the quiet kid in middle school. It wasn't so much shocking as the stupidest thing I've heard him say. He got this 1,000-yard stare all of a sudden and just said, "I can't remember what color my dog is." In high school, there was this really quiet girl named Grace. She was a pleasant person, but wouldn't say anything more than hi or sorry unless you asked her something. Even then, she'd appear terrified. It was at prom, and I was in the parking lot of the venue we had prom at. I lost her contact and had to run to my car to grab my glasses. In the parking lot, Grace was smiling and walking from her car. She looked at me, laughed, and said Ryan, her prom date just effed the FCK out of me. I still laugh about it to this day. 72 virgins is nowhere near enough virgins for eternity. That's like a week's worth of virgins. Playing rugby, a joker fails completely at line out. Someone shouts jokingly, "Does anyone know any good 8 jokers to replace Patrick?" Quietest guy on the team. Never hear him say anything. Maybe Patrick's mum. Can help, proceed to fall on floor. Edit. Line out, line in. It's all the same. So this one kid, who barely ever said 2 words, one day asks the teacher for the time it was at some after school thing, and there was no clock. The teacher says the classic time for you to get a watch, which for some reason was funny to everyone else. The quiet kid doesn't laugh. He looks the teacher dead in the eyes, and once everyone quieted down, he says, "So are you gonna tell me the fucking time, or what?" We were in like 7th grade. One of my students hardly said a word all year until a couple weeks ago. I was trying to get a group of talkative ones under control, and she had enough. She yells out, "Shut the fuck up. I'm trying to work, you fucking assholes." Awkward silence followed, because I didn't know how to handle the normally studious and quiet one losing it. An annoying friend. Dylan, quiet kid, or so f***ing stupid sometimes. Dylan, at least I don't suck massive DCK all the time. This was when I was in my first semester of college 2 years ago. There was this girl who never said a word. The teacher would ask her questions. She would just not say a word. I can honestly never remember her even making a noise. One day the teacher got upset. He felt like she was ignoring him and that she was being disrespectful, so he, like an asshole, said, "Did no one teach you how to speak?" She stood up, walked up to the whiteboard, grabbed his marker, and wrote, "I'm mute, you foolish fucker." Apparently no one ever told the teacher that she had a disability, but she was one badass motherfucker for taking his marker out of his hand and writing that lol. In junior high in the mid-80s, the game Trivial Pursuit was all the rage. We played it in math class one day, and this kid, Gary, who never said anything at all, totally spanked everyone else. by answering every single sports related trivia question. He got a lot of attention for it, and I believe he walked a little taller after that day. I don't think I ever heard him say anything else, but I did see him sitting on the bleachers at a few sports events. At school, having just shown me the scope for a supposedly his sniper rifle, if the fire alarm ever goes off, and you can't find me, don't use the doors as an exit. What if we killed everyone with cancer to stop it from spreading? There was one girl in my school, who I've only ever heard speak once the entire time I knew her. It was during lunch, and two black kids got into a fight. I heard her say, under her breath, "F-king Engers." We were chillin' at a bar in Prague and someone rolled up some hash oil and tobacco, and passed it around. The quiet kid hid it, and got even quieter. 20 minutes later some aggressive, growling black metal comes on and out of nowhere he yells, "Kill your parents." We f***ing lost it. He was pretty happy with himself. The quiet kid from my grade stood up one day, grabbed a broom, stood on a chair, and began trying to swat bees that got inside. One bee landed on the window where quiet kid proceeded to yell "die bee die" and then swatted and shattered the window. He screeched when it happened and then sat back down. Never heard him speak again. Well, literally this question came at a perfect time. I was just thinking about this, and it was by far in sophomore year of high school. This kid was so odd that honestly no one ever really noticed him. But one day he's sitting across from me at a table, and he sees this one girl in really tight shorts, and goes, "God, I could have my head up her ass for months." It was pretty shocking. There was this one quiet girl in my class, and she would never say anything. This was around 3rd or 4th grade, but I would always try and get her to talk. I would be nice, like when she had no paper in her binder I'd take notice and give her some before she can ask. When she was searching for a pencil in her bag I gave her an extra one I had. It was like small little acts. Picking up her pencil, when she dropped it, etc. Then at lunch this kid was picking on me. I was short, weak, and very emotional back then. She came out of nowhere and told the guy, "I'll give you 3 seconds to walk away." I was stunned because those were the first words I've ever heard her say. The guy slapped me and she did a straight kick to his balls after that. I was honored and shocked she ever said anything. She never said anything after that, but I did say thanks TL. DR 3rd grade, quiet girl kicks my bully's balls after saying "I'll give you 3 seconds to walk away." It was the only thing I ever heard her say. Edit. Texted friend that I did get to keep in touch with from back then. She said that quiet girl moved shortly after I did. She did have quiet girl's number. I called it, and it came up with "this landline is disconnected BS." Now I'm struggling even more. I need to find this girl. The girl I texted though didn't even know her last name. No one really did, I guess. What high school she goes to is still unknown. Where she lives still unknown. All is not lost though. I'm still waiting on a Facebook Messenger reply to see if another girl knows her last name. I did try just typing in her first name on Facebook, and I probably typed Elena's name 100 different ways and found nothing. She is not able to be publicly searched on Facebook. Neither am I, but geez, it sucks. I have one last hope, cross his fingers. If you can all cross your fingers with me, it might just work. Edit 2. I'll learn that I won't be able to talk to her. Through a list of people I got her mom's number. Her mom apparently remembered me by name, and then she said that she is in circumstances caused by family not letting her talk to anyone or go anywhere for a while. I never was able to find out why, but you know, it sucks. I'll update if I ever talk to her. If I ever see her I'll take a photo with her. Tomorrow I'm going to try to talk to her mom again to find out what happened. Thanks for the help, Reddit. If I ever marry her I will share anything but her body and love with you. Edit 3. Thanks again Reddit for all y'all who've cared about my little story. As someone pointed out, it's been 5 months, and I want to add very little has changed. She and I still aren't exactly allowed to talk. I've talked to her mum a couple times. I've talked to her once, and it's been better than the silence between the years. I've learned things like her current height and seen a picture of her one she took when we got to chat once, but it doesn't look like there's much to work with in talking to her. Her mother was deemed unfit to parent or something like that in court against her dad's parents. I haven't asked about her dad, but I assume he's dead or ran off. I changed some of the things in this edit to avoid having too much info about her out there, but I know I won't be able to take any of it down from the internet for good. So far it looks like the only chance I'll get to talk to her again is when she turns 18 in a year and a half.